Okay, everyone on good behaviors. Today is Saturday, September 3rd, 2023. I'm glad you're here. I'm Rabbi Brian. It says so right there. This is for lack of better name, this is the Saturday service. It is a different way of looking at religion. This is and we will get to actually how I'm defining what our task here is. That's coming up. But in the meanwhile, let me spotlight all my friends who are here so you can see each other. Everyone give a wave and good morning to Rose, who I didn't say good morning to, and Rob and Gord and Carol and everyone who's still joining in. Good morning, Candace, and good morning, Bruce. I'm going to go back away from this screen of all these different people. If you would like to be one of the people in those boxes, if you go on rotv.org and you get the newsletter, you will also get an invitation to be one of those people. Let me say hello to all the people who are on Facebook and people who are watching this afterwards. You guys are welcome and glad you're here as well. Oh, and good morning, Michael. Glad to see that you're here as well. Fantastic. I want to start with a little bit of review of some things that we did yesterday, that we did last week. The one that struck me the most was when last week I came back from a trip and I thought there's so many different ways I can answer the question of how was your trip, and really trying to focus on leading with a gratitude as opposed to what my natural inclination was to say, oh my God, we had a great trip. You'd never believe it. I got bed bugs in Paris. And just thinking,
lucky guy.
right? Who else gets bed bugs in Paris?
I was there. I never got them.
Yeah. But thinking about that, we really do get to frame. Well, I mean, I get to frame, here are the pictures that I'm showing you. Here are the pictures I'm not showing you from the trip. Here are the stories I'm telling you about the trip. Here are the stories I'm not telling. That we do get to frame what it is that we talk about. And I gave the homework assignment the spiritual religious follow-up thoughts of, in your next interactions, can you start each with gratitude? And but it's a wild idea, is that we can do that in our conversations with other people. And I do believe that we have the ability that we will change what's going on in our brain based on what it is that we're looking for. And leading with gratitude, let me just ask by a show of hands of all the people who I see here on the screen. First of all, how many of you are here today? It's nearly everyone. That is fantastic. Lee is adamantly denying that she is here, but everyone else. And this is as you guys know, I do a lot. There's a lot of andragogy about teaching in adults, and you always want to start with an easier question so people can answer. So I'm glad you guys are all here. And then going to a second question is, how are people doing? Did anyone find themselves this week really pushing themselves towards gratitude, towards answering with gratitude first, or did this kind of just, we got one, two, we got a few hands up, yeah.
I got really high. I thought you said attitude. Altitude. Sorry.
Okay, I'm not following that one quite, but
altitude.
Altitude.
So I got really high.
Okay, that was a pun on something I didn't say.
Yes.
Right.
That's okay. So let's talk about attitudes. An attitude of gratitude. Anyone who wants, is there somebody who made a deliberate attempt this week to try to lead with gratitude, who wants to report something out? Go ahead, Lee, you have your hand up, and then Joe.
I did actually. Tuesday, I had a formal warning from my workplace because they don't believe I have autism. And I led the discussion with the fact that I was grateful that I was there and that I had such understanding people.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a great way of framing it. Thank you, Lee.
Really, they got mad at me.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear
Wow.
that. Joe, how did and hey, these things don't always work the way we plan. So thank you. Joe, talk to us. How did you're picking an attitude of gratitude? How'd that go this week?
Well, so this whole tooth thing has been happening since August. But last week, because of your challenge of Saturday, I led with what's going right with the tooth instead of what's going wrong with the tooth. Every single day, if someone asks, how's the tooth? I found something simple like I can use my electric toothbrush, or I don't have to have peas 3 times a day, only 2 times. I found something positive every time to lead with the tooth story.
Yeah, I think that's just wonderful. And let me add a co-roll, Ari.
You're never going to be a Canadian.
That was very nicely
That's my
pronounced.
attempt at saying it Canadian style. Let me add a corollary to we can try to lead with gratitude, but there's also something to be said for sometimes we just need to have a pity party.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can't just turn that frown upside down. No,
No.
you can't always do that. And sometimes we do need to not indulge, but to give me what's the word? We need to.
I say allow the pain to have a voice as well.
Oh, I like the way Joe said that. Do we like that?
Thank you.
Yeah, that sometimes we have to let give a voice to the pain as well. Other review thing. Anybody at all tried the thumb, pinky, fingers doodad that we tried last week? Oh, it was not an assignment. I was just curious on that one.
I tried to show somebody else how to do it and I screwed it all up. So
You're the best, Emily.
Good job, Emily.
I have not mastered it yet.
Are you trying for it though?
A little bit,
Okay.
but I'm also in the process of moving, and I have a
Yes.
3-day weekend where I don't have to work, so I'm going to be moving and not doing things.
It's fantastic.
But it's on my list.
I have a topic I wanted to share with you. So before the trip, before I had this 2 lovely, amazing 2 weeks with my family, and as you know, a lot of you know, I've been working on this book, and I had to hire a developmental editor because I couldn't figure out how all these pieces should fit together. And before the trip, I sent 45,000 words to this woman, Erin, and said, here, this is now your problem. You deal with this. And it meant that I could not, well, I did, but I couldn't on the trip obsess over what to do with my book because it was out in somebody else's hands.
oh, good idea.
Well, I thank you, Emily. I wish I had thought of doing it that way. It just kind of happened. But then I did get really wise, and I meet with a number of people on Wednesdays who help to debrief what happened at the Saturday service and what to do. And I said, hey, look, I have this other issue that I'm dealing with. I would like to park it with the lot of you in this group. Here, you 6, I'm going to just drop this problem here. And I'm not going to ask you that you even have to do anything with it. But I want to leave this problem with you guys in the event that I should have forgotten that I need to worry about it. When I come back, you guys can remind me. That didn't happen. I still remembered it. But I dropped a problem with a group of people for 2 weeks. And every time... Okay, that's a lie. Some of the times when I started to obsess over it, I thought, no, that's not yours to obsess over. You gave that to the Wednesday group. And I know some people in this group must have the practice of using a God box. Does anyone here have a God? Emily, I see your hand go up. Would you explain to us? Now, a God box, let me be clear. Oh, I can't find it.
Emily will
Oh yeah, I have a God box that's got notes all over it, but it's the notes go inside. I see. I don't know how to pray, and
Okay.
so I write God notes, and
So explain to us
reminding what
I don't quite follow, Emily. So you have a box. There it is.
oatmeal. It's a good old oatmeal box. I covered up white, of course, and I have inside are all kinds of notes. When people here ask me to put somebody in the God box, I put them in the God box, and that way they go to God. They're notes that I write to God.
Yeah. And there's a practice some people do is that they take their own problems and they put their own problem into a God box and say, this isn't for me to worry about. Let
Yeah.
God worry about this.
Carol has a God box there too.
Carol, would you tell us some of your practice?
Yeah, this came about actually from the 12-step tradition is how I heard about it first. And just that, yeah, you put the things that you want to pray about and put them in here. But mostly it's to not carry around a lot of baggage. That, there's a lot of things we can't do anything about. So that definitely goes in here, besides the things you wish for.
Thank you, Carol. So the things that you can't do anything about. Here's a quote that I found that speaks on this. Oh, hold on. If it is out of your hands, it deserves freedom from your mind too.
That's good.
If it's out of your hands, it deserves freedom from your mind too. And I see Eileen has her hand up. Yeah, Eileen, talk to us.
Someone had given me, it was like a soda can, and it was called God Can. I say God can, God can. And it had a slot in it, no plunger underneath like a bank. And you were supposed to just put your problems in there. God can take care of it. And there was no way to get them back out.
But now let me make there should be like a giant asterisk here. And then if you read the little footnote, the footnote says, it doesn't matter what you use the word God to mean. This is just a thought experiment. Like one needn't have a set theology in order to use this idea. We're just using the idea of a God box as like my Wednesday group, let me put this problem somewhere else because I don't want to obsess over this.
Amen.
Okay. Which did lead me, and I also got this idea from, I was very influenced by 12-step meetings, and we'll talk about that in a bit. I made this one because I'm a bit of an asshole. I made this one, and it's a little God box, and it says contain God, and then I put small print on it that says, if God is everywhere, God must also be in this box. A wicked sense of humor. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like us to do is we're going to break into small groups of 5, and we're going to have 6 minutes for that. And I say that so that Alex can get all set up to put us into small groups. And I'm going to ask us in a moment to go into small groups and say, hey, what I'd love everyone in the group to be able to do is to take a moment and say, hi, I'm blah, 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 add in your name. And here's something I can't do anything about right now. And I'm going to drop this with the group. I'm going to ask you as a group to hold on to this for me. And the whole thought experiment is, will that free you up to not be carrying that thing if you can give that? And this is just a thought experiment. I'm not, right? We're not espousing theology in this one. We're just adding something to give to the group. Questions before we break into the small groups, and we all right? Yeah, the instructions are clear enough. Everyone to introduce themselves and say, there's a thing, and it is completely up to you how open you are and how vulnerable, and there's credit is given for participation just for being here. You get full marks. You don't have to bear the deepest thing on your soul. You can bring up anything it is that you would like and to experiment with. We're ready to give that a whirl? All right, so if Alex, you open up there the rooms, and people will go join the rooms, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. If you are watching on Facebook, you did not get the choice to go to another room. And if you are, well, if you can still hear me, then you are watching this on Facebook, or you have opted to not join another room, and that's perfectly fine. I got Scott and Alex and Rose. Hi, Rose. Hi, Scott.
Hey there.
Well, here's our little group. You don't have to share, but if anyone here wants to start with, here's a thing that I'd like to ask the group to hold on to, knowing that our group where we are right now is a little more public than all the other groups, because let me take a look on Facebook. There's at least one person. Oh, there are 4 people on Facebook or otherwise who are here. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
You just joined us. We just went into small groups, and so welcome to a very intimate experience. If you thought you would just come in and sit in the back of the room and not be noticed, your timing is impeccably off.
No, that's hardly me to sit in the back of the room.
Okay, tell me, what is your name? I missed your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Karen.
Hi, Karen. Glad you're here. So, Karen, the game that we're playing, game being a loose word for it, is there a thing that's on your mind that we were talking about the use of a God box, of taking something that's annoying to us that we can't figure out and seeing if we can't get peace by putting it into a God box, of taking something that's burdening us and adding it and putting it into the group. So the question I have, hold on, Alex, I hope you're timing this because my timer just broke.
I have a timer going.
Okay. Well,
we have 2 minutes and 56 seconds before I call people back.
Yeah, my timer gone haywire there. Well, Alex, Scott, Rose, or Karen, is there something that you would let go of and let the group hold on to for the next week, at least as a thought experiment?
Well, I think at least the biggest one for me right now is just the stress of getting this move done.
Yeah.
And the stress of the gift program that gets launched on Tuesday when we come back from the holiday. We've got the company that we work for launches a program where they give away almost 60,000 gifts. And so it creates lots of IT work for me and lots of customer service stuff for him.
Yeah. And so what is it that you'd have us hold on for you?
Mostly just, the worry about, is it going to be okay?
Okay. So I guess the question is, Rose and Karen, I'm glad to worry about that for you.
Yeah, you guys can worry about it, and then we just have to do it, I think.
Yeah, there we go.
Is how that
sounds about fair. Sounds about fair. And I see Shirley is watching. She's on a 12-second delay because she's on Facebook. So Shirley, if there's anything you want to add, please put that into the chat. Karen, jumping straight in with 2 feet, and you don't have to, but is there something that is worrisome that you would like to offset and put on us to worry for you?
Well, I worry about lots of stuff. I'm just trying to rotate in my mind and pick one. Can you come back to me? Because I've got nothing on the top of my head.
Sure.
And I've got a tea kettle whistling, so I'll be back.
We hear it. Rose, is there something you would like to add?
Well, yeah, I love your if-then statement. I'm gonna share it. My problem is, I think everything I can think of right now is still in the if part. I'm not sure if it's out of my hands yet.
Is it you want to give it a try and see if there's a worst case scenario, we can't take it over for you?
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing on my mind is whether or not to contact an old friend. I haven't figured it out yet.
So here's a question. Can we hold on to that for the next week? You're not allowed to think about whether you contact the old friend, and we'll come back to you next week and we'll tell you.
Okay, I may have to just hold on to it till next Thursday. I
Okay.
mean, let metaphorically hold on to it till Thursday, and then I think I'll have to address it again and go think about it.
Okay, so you can let go of it. We can't go a full week, but you can let go of it until Thursday?
Yeah.
Hey, how's that? Does that feel a little freer?
It's what I tend to do anyway. That's why it's still a problem. I keep stuffing it. I keep stuffing it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is a very faceted kind of, the dilemma you bring up, right? It has lots of facets.
If it were easy, we would have figured it out by now.
Exactly so.
Yeah.
And even this process is faceted, it's of letting go.
It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to let go.
Yeah.
And I guess you bring a really interesting question, Rose, is why don't we let go?
Yeah.
And fortunately, we don't have time to address that.
I'll submit it's our reptile brain.
That we don't let go. It's a great. We keep
it's protective.
And it does feel that way. We can't just release a thing once we start obsessing over it. Oh, It looks like the gang is coming back. Thank you, Rose, and welcome back, Karen. Karen, I was expecting to see tea. And here comes all the peoples back. Hello, peoples. Welcome back.
Hello.
So I can tell you in our group a really interesting question came up. We did a little bit of the exercise, but a really interesting question that came up was, why can't we let go of things that we know are outside of our control?
Yeah.
What is that mechanism about? What the heck? It's just a great question, and there's a little bit of freedom in knowing that it seems everyone's dealing with that same problem of wanting to let go of something, but it's just so sticky. It's like, get that thing off. Is there any
our emotions are like flypaper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so tasty.
I wonder why it is that we obsess. We obsess on things. And I don't know if we need an answer just as much as to know that we can have some compassion because that's what we do. Anyone have any other aha moments that happened? Yeah, go ahead, Bruce. Give us an aha, something for us all to think about.
I call it the ego hamster cage. It's the left brain thing.
Yeah.
And it's just ego where we just can't. I mean, it's not just egotistical in that sense, but I mean, it involves us and we get this thing, I call it the ego hamster cage. And it's just, and that's the importance of letting it go, to get it out of your left brain, and so that your intuition can kick in. And, how many times we all had problems that we managed to let go and just go for a walk and forget about it. Then you get, a vision of a, intuition strikes you out of the blue, and that's the value of it.
I have said to people, the following. I've said, hey, you know that thing that you've been obsessing about for the past 28 days straight? You're just about to solve it. Don't take any time off now, because God forbid you need 29 days in.
I love that.
Yes. Will not be defeated.
That if you give up obsessing about it, there's this thought that we'll lose all of the progress that we've made.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
That would make such a difference.
Yeah. Most of the time people know I'm being sarcastic there. So I just wanted to go back and underline. That was a wee bit of sarcasm there. Okay, good.
Anne had her hand up.
Go ahead, Anne.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I found that exercise really interesting because I had to actually say out loud, this is out of my hands. I can't do anything about it.
Aha. as opposed to
Oh,
just
that's
doing that
good.
in your
As
head.
opposed to it all just like I had to actually admit it.
You didn't have to, you chose to, and good for you. And it looks like on your face there seems to be a smile and a little bit of peace. So it seems like that might have worked a little bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cut the cord by saying it out loud. I put it out into the universe.
Other people had a similar feeling. Did anyone else? Yeah, I see some nods happening.
I like that.
I like that too. I do want to go and we'll move on, but good job, everyone. Steve, you have your hand up. Let me not move on quite yet.
Yeah, I found our group was interesting. For 3 out of 4, we were really good about leaving it on the table, and it just was brought there and it sat. And then we got into one more, and then we decided that we were going to at least talk about it and try to make it better. And so
interesting.
It is real hard to just hear things and leave them sit.
I'm making myself a note to remind us next week that next week you get to pick your thing back up. I don't want anyone to worry.
No.
Well, I don't want anyone to think that it's like this is going completely chaos. I got this. I'm going to bring it back next week, and you can take up whatever you need.
We can decide again. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just had her hand up.
What there's more fun.
Hold on. Go ahead, Jess.
Oh, I just was saying no thank you to picking it back up next week. I'd rather not. No thank you.
Oh, I'm not sure. We got to figure that out. Okay. Thank you guys for doing. I do have a follow-up, and we have for weeks and weeks been talking about whose ancestral lands we are on. And Afia a few weeks ago kicked us into, okay, that's nice. And what are you going to do about that? And I have a homework assignment to give you. Of course, knowing full well, this is not graded. You don't have to do any. But a homework assignment is, hey, do you happen to go to a meeting? Are you at a regularly scheduled Zoom or a regularly scheduled in-person meeting where a land acknowledgement is not been done?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, would you try and bring this up and bring some more awareness to where we are? So Afia asked us to get in touch with native land holders in our area to get more involved from that. And I'm going to ask you to get involved in the next week the other way and get more involved in saying, hey, I think it might be really nice that we did some kind of land acknowledgement in our group. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. It's an open homework to do. Joe, do you have a list of people for whom we have this tradition of spending a minute to pray on, to think on?
I do, in fact. Alex and Scott are moving, and they need to rent the Lompoc home. Linda, David, Greta V, Mitch, Sandra, Vashti, Arletta, Dina of blessed memory, Peggy B, Ralph B, Marta C, April, Amy G, Marilyn G, Jess, Avis, Carla, Linda, Phil, Joe, Lauren L, Lauren B, the emergencies in Mississippi where there's flooding, April's mom, dad, sister, and niece, and the people in Pakistan who are also dealing with flooding.
Let's take a minute of time, and we'll start right here, right now, for 1 minute. Thank you. I had thank you all for that moment. I did think, we could probably spend the entire hour listing everyone out for 59 minutes and all the problems in the world for 59 minutes and then having 1 minute of silence. This is a wacky thing to live in this world with so much pain in it and try to live. There's a Buddhist notion of living joyfully with the suffering in the world. I did have one other thought, and then I want to get to a teaching today. Another thought was, one of you have this just, I please bear with this. This is all like here, open thought, and then don't take any of what I'm about to say personally. One of you had this really annoying clickety whack 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 timer going off, and I was looking around the screen like, who the heck was that? And I found out it was my computer.
Oh, the irony. The irony of that.
It reminded me full well of an old story that Nagi taught me and taught to James. Oh, I have a note from James to read to you guys, which was, if you're going outside of a supermarket with a bag of groceries and you trip over a kid's skateboard, you might get really, really angry. But on the other hand, if you're going out of the same grocery store with the same bag of groceries and you trip over a blind person seeing eye dog, you wouldn't be as angry. And the question, of course, is, where does that anger come from? Let me read a note that I got from James. He said this. I said, James, is there anything you'd like me to pass along to the Saturday service folks? And Alex, if you would put up James's address, if anyone wants to write to him, and you can find out how to text to him as well. He wrote, "Thank you, young man. Yes, there is something I would like you to say to the Saturday services. I do wish I could draw hearts on this machine." So, Joe, that's a shout out to you, I think. He says, "But tell them that any friend of Rabbi is a friend of mine. That's number one. Tell them that all their love and friendship has made my life so much better, and thank them for putting such positive energy in the universe for me. Oh, one last thing. Tell them that even though I started this text by calling you young man, that I really meant to say old man. I love you." I have been writing to James for, I think, a decade. And it is a wonderful practice to be in touch with somebody who has such strength of spirit in such a difficult place. And he is so thankful for letters and writing. And every so I've sent him some books, and he's written some books. And I wanted to, I'm so glad to be able to share my buddy James with all of you, and for you guys to be enjoying him as well. Okay, topic for today. And would somebody do me a favor, and at 8:50 remind me that I have some announcements that I want to make. I know this topic that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to get really, it's going to get going. So here's the topic for today. Today's topic is about group dynamics and group relations. And there's this very handy acronym, BART, that's going to show the 4 qualities, 4 pieces that I want to teach you about. And this is just a tool like all others. It's only so good as you use it and make sense out of it. But in every group, in every organization, there are boundaries. There are often time boundaries, that we start at 8 o'clock, we end at 9 o'clock. There are space boundaries. Only these people are permitted to go into this kind of space. There are boundaries. And loose boundaries, there's some organizations, and not that one's right and one's wrong, but boundaries are, you're not allowed in this club unless you're a blank, right? That's a stricter boundary. Different boundaries give us different feelings. I know I feel differently, and it's part of why I love airports. I love having gone through the security checkpoint at airports and sitting in the seats. I feel safe. There's good boundaries there. Late at night at a gas station, not as close boundaries. I don't feel as safe there. There's boundaries. A is authority. Who has been authorized to do what and by whom? In this group here, I am the formal authority. Yay, me. And here are some thoughts about authority. When one of my first internships, it was an internship in architecture, and it was back before computers, and we had Letraset. Remember those rub-on letters?
Yep.
Well, it was an architectural firm, and there was a cabinets filled up with Letrasets, and they had gotten to be a mess. And I couldn't always find what I was looking for. So I had finished some project, and I took on reorganizing all the Letraset. Well, my boss came over to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm organizing the Letraset." And he said, "Who told you to do that?" I had self-authorized without realizing that I would good thing I have that story, but it was who's unbelievable. Like, oh my God, I didn't realize. If I ask you, "Hey, what do you think of my hat?" and you answer, "I don't like your hat," it's a very different thing than if I don't ask and you tell me you don't like my hat. Little kids, talk to Emmett about this. Kids are on the wrong end of adults who have self-authorized all the time. Adults feel, I have double your age, I have the right to tell you things. That's interesting. Also on authority. It's not authority like it's more on authority being who has been authorized. When we go into small groups like we just did, sometimes in the past I have said whoever's name is closest to the beginning of the alphabet should start. And today I didn't do that. I didn't say who should start. I didn't authorize anyone in particular to be in charge of that small group. And it's a different feel. Everyone remembers being in fourth grade, add or subtract a few years on that, and being told to do a group project. And the teacher gives everyone a group project, but doesn't put anyone in charge of it. And you remember it didn't go well. Why didn't it go well? Because nobody knew who the fuck was in charge. And without knowing who's in charge, one of the people in the group says, "All right, I'll do it," and then starts resenting the other people for not doing anything. And the other people start resenting that one person for authorizing themselves to be in. Who put you in charge of this group? And it's a disaster. Boundaries, authority. Roles. They're different roles. Different ones of us have different roles in different situations. I have the role of father. I have the role here as service conductor. And some of you are co-hosted, and you guys can all see who's co-hosted and that those people have a certain role. Alex has a special role in this group. Alex is our tech person. Thanks, Alex.
Welcome.
Different people have different roles within groups, and we can change roles as we go. Also, roles sometimes are implicit. I know when I'm in a group, the group never says, "Oh, we need some comic relief in the form of a wise ass." And then I say, "Oh, I'll volunteer to be that person." I pick up and I take on that role. I can easily pick up and take on that role. I also very easily fall into the role of teacher. It's a very comfortable role for me to be in. And it's really comfortable for a group to be, "Oh, there's the teacher, here's us as a group." Then we know what our roles are. And what we've been trying to do here is being aware of that. And let me bring us to this last one, is task. often there's a task, the work of the group. This is what the group is here to do. We are here to make widgets. We are here to explore the pharmaceutical industry's role in da 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 da. There's a task. There's something that we're here to do. And I wrote out, and this is the first time I was thinking about going over. Oh, let me tell a story. How boundaries are maintained is interesting. Does the group build up the boundaries? When boundaries are crossed, how does the group deal with that? And I'm going to tell a story where I really learned this. I'm an intern rabbi, which means I'm in rabbinical school. So I'm working at a congregation, and I'm in the lobby. So my role is I'm not a regular person, but I'm not a rabbi either. And there's a woman in the lobby who's crying. And I talk with her a little bit, and she's crying, and I'm like, this is way above what I can do. So I go and I buzz myself in to go into the rabbi's offices because I'm allowed to cross that boundary because I'm a rabbinical student. And I walk into Akiva's office, and he looks up from whatever esoteric book he's reading. And I say, there's a woman in the hallway, in the lobby, who's crying. You should talk with her. And he says, did she ask to talk to me? No, I say. She didn't. Well, then there's nothing for me to do, he says. He was playing it pretty straight. Okay. Here's what I came up with. So boundaries. We have some boundaries in this group. Authority. We have some idea of who's authorized to do what. Right? When I call on someone and say, oh, you had your hand up. Also with regard, and that's in this hour. And then we have the second hour that starts up. And then we have the donut group, and we have the deep dive group, and we have the poetry group. And we at least know implicitly who's in charge of those rooms. And then often, Jane taught me this a long time ago. When you set a boundary with a person, I don't want you to call me after midnight ever again. When you set a boundary with a person, often people test that boundary. That's just what people do. With regard to the roles that we have here, there have been moments where my authority as the head of this group has been tested. I don't know if not everyone was here for it, but there was a moment where I forcefully muted everybody because y'all didn't like that I was calling this a spiritual support group, and it got a little clamorous. And if you weren't here, you can imagine. And I said, and it was not a popular thing to have said, I said, it might seem like a democracy, but this is not a democracy. And I was reestablishing what the boundaries were. And look, we all know, and we got that going on in this world right now. People are so desirous of firm boundaries that they're willing to give up their own authority to somebody in the role of tyrant. That's some scary stuff. Oh, yeah. All right. So here, I'm going to zoom in on my notes.
Can I help you? Oh, you got it.
I'm going to zoom in on this is what I believe our task is. Please hold. There we go. Explore spiritual religiousness. Sorry, but that's the word I came up with. Explore spiritual religiousness as a group of individuals with special focus paid to the happenings in the here and now. I think that's what our task is, or at least that's what I believe our task to be. I'm going to stop there because I just threw out a whole smorgasbord of like, hey, here's the buffet and a conveyor belt machine that's going to feed it into you at a really fast rate. And that was a lot. So I want to take a moment and see if there are comments or if there are questions about any of the things that about boundaries, authority, roles, and tasks before we go further into this.
would you say that again? Just about the tyrant? Just say it again.
That strict boundaries make people feel safe, and people are willing to give up their own autonomy to feel safe, and seemingly would be happy to play the role of servant. I mean, we see this in politics right now in this country, of a large faction of people, or an armed faction of people, who would rather have a zealot instead of freedom, because a freedom is too scary. And I don't, that's not this group. And then that's a whole nother thing, is like, who's the us, who's the them, who's in our group, who's in their group. Thank you for asking, Rose. Is that of help? Yeah. And it's scary. And what do we do when it's scary? Is we want comfort. And are we willing to pay the price? Speaking of which, I'm doing phone banking right after this. I encourage people to get involved. Please get involved. I'll say something that my beloved said when in 2016 election was, if I'm not involved, I'm going to kick myself if things don't go the way that I want them to go, and knowing that I could have done more. So that's my little plug. Okay. More thinkings about boundaries, authority, roles, and tasks. What's our task right now?
Listening.
Well, you said the group explores religiousness with a special focus paid to the here and now. So anything that you talked about, how does that apply to us in our spiritual journey in the here and now?
Yeah. How about at this moment? What's our task? What are we doing?
Oh.
Listening.
Well, or to see how we're feeling about what you've talked about, how it relates to our lives.
Yeah. The task is to take and to turn it inward and outward. Yeah.
Our general task is thinking together.
Yeah, thinking together.
Instead of just thinking alone in my box.
Being here together in community.
And to look in community. And I think it's to use this safe group to explore the edges of our own comfort. Because I think everyone here knows that this group feels safe. This group's not picking on the weakest members. This group is trying to uplift everyone's heart. And to see, where are you? And specifically, I mean you. Where are you in this group? And what's it bring up from other groups that you've been in? Yeah, Carol?
I think I'm attracted to groups, and I'll include like the Wild Goose Festival, where I can find the truth. And I'm not even sure what that means, but I know it when I hear it.
Yeah.
Amen.
And Carol, thank you for being vulnerable. That's it's an implicit task. It's an implicit thing that we do at this group, is to be vulnerable and to see how is that taken up. And it's scary to be vulnerable until you've done it, and then you're like, oh, look at me. I did that. Proud of myself. That wasn't that bad. Thank you, Carol.
Sure.
Okay.
Rabbi, you asked for a reminder at 8:50.
It is 8:50, and there's a boundary, and let's see what we do with that. I have some announcements that I wanted to go over. On September 17th, which is coming up in 2 weeks, I would like to ask for a volunteer, please. because our dear friend Alex is not going to be here to be doing tech, and I need somebody to please and send me a message. I need somebody to help to mute people. We will not do small groups on the 17th because that's a little much of an ask. But if somebody would volunteer on the 17th to do tech, I would sure appreciate that. If you want to talk more about the God concept, there's a group we have, the Shekinah group. And the Shekinah group, you can send an email if you're not already getting the emails about the group's meeting to please do so. And Alex, if you would put up in the, and I promise you on the 17th, all I need you to do is to mute people if they go rogue and are loud. I won't ask you to post stuff up. But Alex, if you would put a post up to the clubhouse. We do have a new clubhouse spotlight person. And we have spotlit my second cousin, Amy. So please to go onto the clubhouse and read a little bit more about cousin Amy and just to have a little bit of extra community if you'd like. We're there. September 30th, hold the date. September 30th, I will be running a high holiday service. It will be live both by Zoom and in person here in Portland. All are welcome, mostly in English. Recordings will be available. I will let you know more about that, but just to hold on to that, that's a Friday night. Next announcement. Oh, October 14th, I've decided, hey, would you like to, we did the matzah making, and this is going to be a little bit longer of an experience because I want to teach people how to make a pretzelized challah dough, and it'll probably be about well, there's an hour of rise time, so I want to teach about Sabbath and Shabbat while we're doing the rise time, but we'll all mix our dough together and have a little bit of community. That's going to come up in October, more details to follow. If we could, Alex, here's a harder one. Can you spotlight our friend Joe for a moment? Joe has a little sign to hold up. There is a new room happening at the clubhouse, which is a 12-step room. Doesn't matter what 12-step group that you are in or have wanted to, or if you are familiar with the 12 steps at all, to please join. And there's a link in the chat to join. And that's going to start on September the 12th. It's going to be a 12-step meeting. Everyone is welcome to attend. It will, though, as best as we can, once people are in it, it will stay anonymous that you were there or not. Okay. Two other announcements. One, please, let's go back to making statements from I and not you. And everyone has done an amazing job at not saying you, but we've fallen into the we. So instead of saying, well, when you lose a spouse, you learn to say, well, when I lost a spouse, what I learned was and the transition from you to I, we've done very well, but we seem to have picked up a little bit of a we, which is, well, we all know that No, we don't. So to please mind your language a little bit on the I and we. And the last announcement, which I'm quite fine. I think this is an important announcement. Hey, if you're having a hard time, that's okay. This shit is hard. Life is hard. And we can't just always turn our smile upside down. So if you're having a hard time, please, to the best of your ability, be kind to yourself and see that you can't always be in a good place. Kip, you have your hand up. What you got, buddy?
I do. I wanted to talk about the role that you gave Ron and I and invite people to reach out to us about that.
Very good.
So we need to come up with, I'm going to call it a financial sustainability committee, because that's better than fundraising. But we need to be financially sustainable for this ministry. And Ron and I have been asked to find folks that want to join that committee. So if that's something you feel called to do, reach out to Ron or I, throw your hat in the ring, and then we'll work on getting that organized so we can figure out how to get the income into this group so that it can keep going on.
Thank you, Kip, for picking that up. And that was, and I would like to say, that was the thing that I left with the group on before I left. I said, I got a fundraising, I use the fundraising term, not sustainability. I said, I got a fundraising issue, and I don't want to worry about this on my trip. So can I just park this here for 2 weeks? And then when I came back, this is what came out of it was. So if you would please to be of further help. Okay, folks, other comments, questions?
When we do breakout rooms, are you going to do a rabbi chat this morning?
I will stick around for 15 minutes afterwards. There will be breakout. There will be small group discussion. And also just to make the announcement, the reason we have a second hour was it was suggested. Can't we all hang out? And so there's the donut room afterwards if you stick around for another hour. And there's a deep dive room if you want to stick around for another hour. And there's well, they're not separate hours. It's the same hour. You can't be in both of them at the same time. And there's a poetry room if you want to stick around. And I stick around for about 15 minutes in the special rabbi room because sometimes people got a thing they want to just nuzzle up to the clergy. Nuzzle doesn't sound like the right word. I'd like to apologize and take that word back.
Schmooze.
Schmooze. Schmooze is better. Okay. What does nuzzle mean? I don't even know what the word nuzzle means, but it feels a little too intimate.
Is that cuddling?
Okay. So to please stick around.
Too close to cuddle.
That is that's it, folks. I'm feeling like we're 3 minutes to the end. I'm close enough on the boundary. I'm going to put everyone's faces back on so you can wave bye-bye to the people who are on Facebook. And hold on, let me get to them. There we go. Let's say goodbye to all the people on Facebook.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Facebook people. And we are no longer...